Hello everyone, today this is Billy Cultist coming back into the naturalistic environment of the snowy wasteland forest that we created with the Goblin seed. We've been working on this several episodes now, and I'm proud to say that this is going to be the final pass on this seed, I think, for me. Today we're gonna go and we're gonna kind of make like a little goblin campsite. I may actually go a little further than that, actually make kind of like a little goblin house, town, village slash, I don't know, whatever, but you know, we're gonna build some structures, some civilization as it were around this campfire, and that'll be the final thing we do to this scene to kind of spruce it up, but hopefully it will be entertaining, and I will try to make it as informative as possible as I go about it. And of course, when we're done with it, we will be saving it, publicly updating the one that's already available on Dreams for Remix, so if you want to take a look at that, you can always remix it after it's updated, and all the stuff I've added in this video will be there, or should be. Now, Marty has informed me that I actually got a request slash suggestion for a video on how to make a jungle scene. And I must tell you, I'm actually very interested in that idea. In a lot of ways, a jungle scene would be quite similar to this scene, in some ways very different, because there'd be a lot of foliage going on in a jungle, but I've had a little experience with jungles previously. I'd like to make a jungle scene and kind of go through that. I kind of enjoy a jungle setting. It's interesting to me. So I think our next video with me about scenery crafting will indeed be something about making a jungle, and we'll get into that when that comes around, but that's something to look forward to. Okay, but anyway, without further mucking around, I'm just gonna go and let's get into this. The first thing I'm gonna do is go back and grab our goblin guy and bring him... Oh, he's not over here. We'll have to go the other way. Okay, so I brought the goblin guy right back to the clearing here with the fire pit and everything, and this is mostly gonna serve as a scaling thing. We can scale whatever pieces of architecture or instruments of the trade of goblinary arts or whatever after his scaling. Now I'm thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna situate... We got the sunrise over there when it's... or sunset, sorry, when it is twilight going over there. So I think what I'm gonna do is over here, this direction, we're gonna have the on this side of the clearing, our little goblin encampment or village structure going on. It may be something very fantastical, like a little conglomeration or compound of structures. Very, quite in the corner of the woods kind of thing. Additionally, our little building or whatever is going to probably be quite primitive in construction, like, twigs and stuff strapped together, kind of clumsy and crude in a fashion that I would expect from a guy looking like this, I'm not saying anything, maybe he could be a fine architect or whatever in real life, but in this case, we're going to just go with some primitive, crude sort of thing like you'd expect from goblins. I'm going to be using quite a bit of compound work to make these too, and I'll show you about that as we get going, so let's sort of step into it. Now, to my mind, I've kind of got a vague idea what I want, but I'm kind of thinking in terms of cylinders and cylindrical structures, so we're going to go with something sort of cylindrical with those structures we're going to set up. So I'm going to basically open up Sculpt mode, and we're gonna start with a cylinder, and as you all know, I like to get in here, R1, hold R1, press, L1, hold L1, press square, and get this up, and then activate this varying looseness. I like that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up here to section, I'm turn it on 1, we're gonna half pipe it, I don't know what this is, like a semi-cylinder here, and I'm gonna kind of drag it out just a little bit here, just to... I think it needs to be a little bit. We're going to scale it up later a little, so about there. Now I got that, I'm going to go and take in here in guides, and I'm going to set this up grid snap real quick so we can get this aligned perfectly with our environment. Then I'm just going to stamp it. Going to get out of this, and I'm going to do a little scaling. Going to go in here and going to turn off the grid snap. I'm going to align this to the actual guy himself, because I know I want the building to be bigger than that. It's not for mice, it's for him. So let's say about somewhere like, maybe that big seems good. Now that might be a little small, you might be thinking, but it kind of lends it a fairy tale quality if things are a little, I'll put this like TARDIS-like, the building looks kind of small and A little too small maybe in some respects, but well, we might add more parts. There'll be different sizes later, but for this part that looks good to me. So now I'm going to be heading back into sculpt mode, and we're going to be doing a little modeling on this wall of our cylindrical structure. And this here is the outer wall, and this inside you're not going to see, because we're not going to have an interior that's enterable from the actual scene itself, so you won't have to worry about this end. Just make this outer wall here is what I'm going to do. And I'll explain in a moment exactly why we're doing this way, just half the structure. This may be confusing, but don't worry. When we get near the end, you'll start to see it come together and understand what we're doing. But for now, I'm just going to speed through sort of some detailing work on this, and we're going to add some things. Okay, so there's a little detailing work done on that. I'm actually going to quickly get out of sculpt mode real quick and just in the object mode move this over here to the side, because the position I had it was making it a little awkward to work on, what with that edge of the clearing there, like that. But now I'm going to just kind of jump back into the sculpt mode. We'll actually start adding some color right now to this thing. So we're going to hop into our tools menu, and we're going to go for our spray paint, and we're going to hit our colors, and we're going to get into browns. I'll start with this brown over here, but I'm going to kind of mess with it in the color picker. So I'm going to open up the color picker, and a lot of times I'll like to go for not just a brown, but kind of make it a little less saturated to kind of brown gray. That's just my choice, but we will kind of try to hit a darker tone for this particular part of this structure. Okay, I like that pretty well. That's looking... okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to take out some shape here. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to scale it up. I'm just going to paint the whole thing this. Go back into colors, and I might just lighten this up just a tad, give a little variation on it there, and gonna get a different shape for this spray paint. Sometimes that actually helps, and I'm gonna size this up so I can do some streaking along it, and we're gonna just kind of speed through that. Okay, I kind of got something of what I'd like on that look, and it's not going to be much for now, but you may look at this and think, well, look like you're kind of just making a giant log there, Billy, but yeah, you'll have to watch, see for the patience of the plan to take shape. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to get out of paint, we're going to head right back to our shapes tool, and we are going to select our handy dandy curve, and we're going to hold our L1 triangle and make sure that it's on smear like that. And also hit triangle because right now she's on subtract, so we put it on add like that. And I'm just going to hit L1 square real quick and make sure our variant looseness is on. And it is on. I like that. Very nice. Very good. I don't know why the looseness amount is so high. I don't know if that needs to be... well, I'm not going to fiddle with that anyway. Anyway, variant looseness is on. Smear is on for our curve. Good. I'm just going to set a color. Go with the color picker real quick. Gotta pick a color off our tree and maybe modify that a bit. Go in here like that, grab it. And I'm gonna go into the color picker and I'm gonna modify it to be quite a bit brighter than what we've used so far. Let's go up like about that much maybe, hit that. That's kind of almost whitish, but no, that's not gonna be bad. So let's see here. Okay, we've got that very nice, that's all set. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically just draw out some quick twig-like smears. And we're going to go along that way, making twig-like smears. And I'll speed that up real quick here. Okay, we've got our little twig-like smears here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off this, and I'm basically just going to be duplicating these out. And kind of lining them up along the exterior wall thing we basically got going here. Until there's a whole bunch, and it's going to look kind of like a wall of twigs all put together. So we're going to speed through that. Okay, so we got some twigs going on. I might actually add a few finer ones in there just because I feel like it needs them. So I'm gonna quick go in here and draw out some of those and add them in the same way. We'll speed through that kind of. Okay, so now that I got that, I'm basically going to get back with sculpt mode. We're going to take a wedge, and I'm going to do a little more detailing work to kind of just trim some edges and stuff. Maybe put some edges on these so they're not so bulbous like that. Kind of have more of a cut-off look, and I'm just going to speed through that while I kind of do that. Okay, and I might just go ahead and, wait, I exited out of sculpture. I did go and take the curve again and get the color right. We just gotta kind of make some twigs to go around the base and top there, make it look a little better. So I'll speed through that kind of. Okay, then I'll just get back in with my wedge tool and kind of speedish through the trimming on these that I'll kind of do. Okay, that's looking pretty nice, kind of where I want the sculpture to be as far as detail. I don't think I'm going to go too much deeper than that for that. One thing I want to do is probably get in here to the flex styles and make sure that I have got something a little more, I don't know, barky, woody looking. I like to use this a lot, the Impressionist flex, so we'll take that real quick. And we'll apply that to this thing, and I'll also get in here, go back to the tools and take this comb. We'll have them kind of go vertical, and that'll look a little better. Of course, that's not going to work super well with these because these are horizontal, but, you know, we'll just accept that. Now we'll back out of style modes and we'll get in and tweak, do with the things I like to do. Another thing I like to do usually, this kind of, I find helps if somebody's working on logic, I guess, to get into the labels and make sure you set the thing as scenery. Other thing I like to do, we know from previous videos, is turn off the collidability, and this I'm going to do with most things I make. Well, actually I won't. I'll turn the collidability on for this thing, because this I want you to be able to bump into. But we will turn down the imp interaction and physics cost is a thing I commonly do. Maybe not necessary entirely, but I do it. So we've got that little simplistic half cylindrical wall thing going on. I think I need to put a kind of a roof, and we're going to go with kind of a conical roof, I think, on this. Just seems like it'd be about right. So what we're going to do is open up sculpt mode. We're going to get ourselves a code, and we're going to set this on snap so we can get it oriented correctly. Get into its settings real quick, check that this is on. It's not, but we want it on, so I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to set it up right about there. It doesn't matter, we're going to stamp it out. It's just the basis. Exit out of sculpt mode, get this off so I can move it around freely, and we'll size it up. Actually, wait, let's go back. So actually, we got one last thing to do before I turn off grid snap. We need to have grid snap on just for a bit here, and I'm going to get back into sculpt mode on this, and we're going to get a cube. We're going to cut this baby in half. Like so, line that up like that, and cut that. I'm gonna get in here in the guides, not the guides, tools, get the stretch tool, and we're just gonna, make sure that's nice and cut in half like that. Perfect, that's about all. Exit the tool. Now we can turn off grid snap and move this thing into a position we like. I'm gonna get it all set up here, kind of. And this is just gonna be, this is really something to start with. This will probably look completely different when we get going. It's really more of a guide than anything else, but let's get into sculpt mode and color it up like we did with the wall down below. I'll just kind of speed through that. We're gonna do roughly the same kind of coloring strategy we used. And of course, we're going to go through and do a little bit of detailing work, cutting out some stuff, using some negative space, kind of get this basic shape a little more refined so we can figure out what we're wanting to look at here. I kind of feel like it needs a little bit more of a, it needs to come out a little bit more, like the center, sort of, so I'm going to go and do something with a Probably some cubes. Fix that up. We'll make a nice thin kind of cube here. And we'll just kind of rough it along. We'll speed as I go. Actually, I'll probably hold L1 and get inside this cube and turn up the blend amount just a touch, because I think that would help it out. I might turn that. Yeah, like that. And then we'll just continue on. I like the look of that, actually. That's kind of looking like shingles or something. So I might actually scale this down and just go ahead and make shingles. I will turn this off, though, if that's what I'm going to do, because we don't really need that. So we'll just kind of go along and make some shingles here. Oh yeah, that's looking kind of nice, kind of giving me kind of a dark crystal vibe with that. I kind of like that. I'm a pretty whimsical guy, and the cool thing about this whimsical fantasy stuff, you don't have to worry all about the, geometry being all elegant and totally aligned, these wacky shingles just give it more personality, so that's great. So we're going to briefly hop out of sculpt mode. We're going to get our detail tools and take a look at that, see what we're doing on thermo. We've got 23, so I think it was 22 before. It probably bumped up by about 2, which I would expect. It's going to go up by at least 1 every time you add a new object, and these are 2 new objects, so that's expected. But I think we're doing okay. It's at a good level of detail. And yeah, it seems acceptable to me for the size and whatever we got here. So I'm going to get out of this, and we're going to just get back in here, and I'm going to do a little painting detailing on this just a little bit to kind of give it some more personality even. We're going to hop in paint. I like to get a little bit lighter color than what we had, and I'm going to probably actually just do this a kind of a more tedious way, but a way that I like to do, which is set the guides on surface snap, get a spherical brush, and then we'll just paint over areas where I like to lighten up, which is generally in the center, soft blend it out a little bit, size it down, and just kind of get it so it has kind of that center is a little more bleached looking. I don't know why that looks so good to me, but it just kind of does make it pop a little bit. We'll speed through this as I get this process done. Okay, that's done, and now that I'm looking at it after I've just done it all, I'm kind of realizing this was actually a little bit of tomfoolery on my part, because we're probably going to be covering this up in some form with snow, so you won't actually see this. But anyway, you did kind of get the process of that. There's a little more painting I'd probably like to do. Down under here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and take straight black, like so, and I'm going to turn the opacity down so we can have some softness to how we deal with it. Oh no, not that. Turn the blend up, turn the opacity, which is over here, down, and we're going to just kind of put that along the inside there. I'm going to turn also on the guides. Oh, we do have studio lighting. Well, it's going to be difficult to see, but I'm just going to kind of wing it. Now that's done. That's just a little something you can sometimes do to kind of accentuate lighting and stuff, is actually paint like areas of basically shadow to some degree on your sculpture, though it's not really necessary at all, in Dreams. You could, get pretty good lighting even without that, but, I just like to do that sometimes. So now that sculpting's all done, I think I'm just going to pop out the sculpture and kind of do the same things I did in style and tweaks to the bottom as I do to this. That'll be real quick. Here are the tweaks. I'm actually going to turn off collidability for the roof because I don't expect you to be walking on any roofs in this scene. So we'll just do that. And as always, put the scenery label on. And we'll turn off the collidable. And then we'll get done with that tweak. And there we go. We have got our roof and we've got our little rounded wall. So you can arrange this too. I think that might be a little high. I'll bring it down just a bit to kind of hide that. But we can bring that down. That's no problem. That looks kind of good to me. And what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to just select these both, not actually group them, but I just want to make sure I'm getting fully what I want out of them. And now I'm going to kind of get into a little explanation as to why exactly I decided to do this in half instead of just make the whole round thing at once. And for this, I'm going to go into my guides and we're going to turn the grid snap back on and press triangle to realign to grid so it's straight up and down or whatever. Then I'm going to L1R2 to clone it out. And we're going to bring it over and we're going to click in the L3. And that didn't flip it like I wanted, but we'll just manually turn it around like so, which is how I want it. Try to align it that way. And there, that's pretty much aligned, pretty much like I would say. I'm going to turn off the guides real quick and we're going to take a look at it. And I'm going to kind of explain now what I was doing. I might line it up a little bit more, reselect, and without the guides on, kind of push it in just a touch, just to kind of hide that seam a little more. There's more clever things we could do to hide that seam, which we'll probably get into later. But as for now, I'm pretty satisfied with that. That seems okay to me. But now let's explain exactly what I was thinking when I made this thing in half like that. So, basically, in Dreams, the bigger your sculpt, at least in my experience, now I'm no super deep delving developer, dream expert, anything like that, but in my experience with using it, the bigger an object or a sculpt is, and the more fine detail, like these twigs say, or shingles you have on it, the more detail you're going to have to sacrifice. So basically what you want to aim for is making the thing as small as possible, thereby allowing you to preserve more detail. Like, if I had made this entire object as one whole shape, roof, shingles, and all that, and wall together, this entire cylindrical little parapet or tower, then I would not be able to have probably this level of detail on it at this point. I would not be able to have it be purple like that. It would probably be red to look this fine. And I would have to reduce it, and it wouldn't look as fine as it does at this scale. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to preserve detail. And the way you go about that, if you can, this isn't possible with every single thing, of course, but there's a lot of ways to cleverly do this in most situations, I find. But the way you can go about that is try to figure out how you can actually break up an object, and also how you can basically mirror, like, what I want here, this entire thing, I figure, it's going to be the same on both sides in shape, so I can cut it down the middle, and I've got half as much object. And cloning in Dreams, you see, you basically just clone it, and the clones do not nearly drive up your thermal so much. Like, you can have, if I had it at this size and high detail, that's going to drive my graphics thermal way through the roof. But the way I've done it, I can get this level of detail for less graphics thermal cost, and clone this out a bunch and still get, I can have plenty of these, at least for my scenes purposes, Eventually cloning starts to run up your gameplay and stuff as well, but you can go a longer way on cloning than you can on making massively detailed sculpts. So that's something I like to do whenever I possibly can. It's kind of my little belly tip on this. Anyway, we'll delete that, and now that that's together, looking pretty good, we could actually go in and do a little more work, and we're going to need a little more work, because this, as you can see, is a good basis, but we're going to need a little more work on this. We need doors, we need windows, we need, a little extra stuff. So we're going to start working on that here. So you may be asking yourself, well, Billy, what are you going to do about windows and doors? And I'm going to show you. We're going to go up here and get into the guides. I'm going to get on this precise move, and we're going to duplicate out one of these half wall things and just move it over to the side real quick like that. And we're going to let this be our door piece. So all we're going to do now is get into sculpt mode, and we're going to take ourselves a cylinder, and we're going to make sure we're not in paint mode, which we are, stamp shape, and I'm going to make sure I'm in stamp, which I am, and turn it to subtraction. You may be seeing where I'm going with this. I'm going to take the color, I'm going to get into brown, I'm going to go for very, very dark brown here, and we are going to scale it up a bit, just a touch like that. Actually, I'm going to do some stretching on it, so L1 square. And we can stretch it out. We're probably going to have to realign it a bit. I'm going to have sort of an ovoid shape like that. And we got that. Now I'll just realign that so that it's more vertical. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think I'm getting some feedback that I have something still on that I don't want on, and that is surface snap. So we'll turn that off real quick and then arrange this. And I'll turn this off too. Precise move I don't need for this. And I'll just put this in here like so, kind of so deep, about dead center kind of, and we'll kind of maybe angle it just a little bit. It doesn't really matter per se. And then I'll just stamp, and our thermal's going to go up by 1+ for that, because we just altered that sculpt. So now to Dreams' mind, we got a whole nother sculpt, and that's going to be at least 1+ pretty much every time you do it. So we got that, but that's okay. We do need this, and we've got a little room to spare in here. We still got a little room to spare. We're doing decent for the scene we've got, so that's fine. At the end of the day, the game is not about the usage of space itself. but it's how you use it efficiently. So as long as we're doing it efficiently, which we are, we're good. Now I'm going to get back in here to sculpt mode, and we're going to make a few quick modifications on this just to make this look a little better. This doesn't look so good as you can see at the moment, but we're going to fix that, so I'll be speeding through that a little bit. Okay, and as you can see, I just kind of cleaned that up a little bit so it doesn't look quite as abrupt or whatever. We're going to get out of sculpt mode. We're actually going to go ahead and start a new sculpture, so back into sculpt mode. And we're going to kind of get ourselves a little door going on before we forget it. And for that, I'm going to take this sphere, and we're going to make sure we always want this very loose, as I do. Not necessarily all the time you need that, but I do that a lot. So we're also going to section it off. It's going to be a half, and I'm going to kind of smash it up a bit. And we're going to kind of basically vaguely match it to the shape of our door. Doesn't have to be perfect, because of course this is very crude architecture and stuff, so we're just going to set this up kind of as we go, seat of our pants style. Kind of move that around like so, and then kind of just size that where it's about right. We're going to do a little extra modeling to make it a little more beautiful as we go. I'll bring it out a little bit, because we may have to model the back end. This is if you want your door to be able to open. I don't know if we'll have it openable fully in this. We'll just kind of make it kind of ajar, maybe, at most. So yeah, we might not do so much modeling on the back end, but let's just hook that up like that. And we'll add our colors, and we'll do a little detailing work. Pretty much a lot of it's going to be mostly like what I did with the wall, so we'll just kind of speed through that. The thing you could do too when you're doing this, with this door that I'm doing now, is you could put surface snap on this and just kind of draw twigs along the surface. I'm going to do kind of a mixture of that and the other thing that I did with the wall. It'll work nicely, I think. Okay, we've kind of got our little door near complete here. I'm thinking I almost might want to just put like a little peephole, like kind of window in it, because that seems like it would add some personality. So we're going to get and do that real quick. Okay, so we got the door looking pretty nice, about as nice as I think I need it. And of course the backside's got not lots of detail, but that's not going to matter. As I said, we're not going to really open the door so much. Just going to kind of be there and look like a door. So we kind of move it in like this and hook it up. It looks about as good as I want. Nice and primitive. Now something else I'd want to do is I'm going to go and make just a one kind of log or stick or twig. And there's going to be a purpose behind that, but we're going to model that real quick. It's going to be pretty simple. We'll just go into sculpt mode and use our constant tools for making twigs and stuff. So I'm going to speed through that. Okay, I got my twig slash log thing, whatever it is, and you might be asking exactly what this is about, and I'll tell you. First here, I'm going to check the detail out on it. It's a little red. We could go a little lower than that, even though it didn't really bump our thermal up, but we don't need it to be that red. So I'll bring it down to around the purple of these buildings, kind of, so that's good. Get out of detail. So what exactly this is it is yet another handy-dandy piece that we could clone many times, and it could have many uses and extra little detailing points around our structures. And we could just add it in there, and just, if we need something like, say, oh, maybe I want a few more, I want like some cross beams on the door, so to speak, sort of like that, and then like hook that up, or flip it around, doesn't matter. But it's useful for that, and you can clone it out. It's not going to take a bunch of graphics costs, because it's a clone. It's a pretty low detail sculpture, whatever, and it'll hook up right nice to our building there. So another thing I'm going to make that's going to be kind of similar to that is I'm going to kind of make a section of shingled roof, and it's not going to be too big. It's just going to be kind of a little section, and I'm going to speed through that real quick. The process will be very much similar to this, except on a smaller scale. So there, we've got that. I'm going to check the detail real quick on that, make sure, and it's a little bit higher than I think we need it, so we'll just jack it down just a little bit there. We're still at 24 graphics, good job. And we'll get out of detail here, and I'm just going to quick do the styling stuff. Keeping in mind that there's not going to be, that there is going to in fact be snow covering it. I'm not going to do the exact same painting scheme I did on that before, because you already know how to do that, so we're going to just go with what we got here. Okay, so now one of the things I think we need on these buildings is windows, and there's a couple of ways we could possibly go about that. One way would be to duplicate this out again and do kind of the same thing we did with the door and have basically a window section where we cut a couple of one or two arbitrary window holes and put them into the skull. Or another thing we could do, and I like to do a lot, especially when I'm working with this whimsical fantasy stuff, is make a box window. I don't know if that's actually the correct term for it, but it's kind of like a window that protrudes from the house to some degree. It's got like the whole window enclosure kind of protrudes, and there's a reason why that's kind of easier to do, sort of, for me. And it does work pretty well with these fantasy like hovels and cottages and such. So we may actually go ahead and try that out here. Another cool thing about the protruding window system is it can work sometimes pretty well on the roof as well. Like if you want windows up here, it could be an easy way of getting that without too much hassle and altering too many sculpts. So I think we really will try that approach here. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and head into sculpt mode, and we're going to make, I think what we're going to go for is some little rounded out kind of things. Gonna add a little bit, stretch this circle just a touch, because it won't have the varying looseness effect unless you do that. So to get that, we'll stretch it. Then we'll just kind of line it up here with the walls, and we'll see what we can get out of this. Scale it up just a touch there. Or maybe down. I don't know if the windows need to be that big. Maybe about that. That seems maybe about where I think it would be good. So we'll just stamp that right there to where it's about half in there and half out. And there we've got the basis for our window. And I'm going to go through pretty much the same aspects of detailing and painting and stuff as I did on these twiggy parts, so we'll speed through that. Okay, I like where I'm at on that. That kind of looks like one of those weird fancy bird nests built by one of those birds. I don't know what they're called. We'll call them fancy birds. But it's looking pretty good for like a protruding like window port type thing. So we're all set with the window, and we're not going to have to duplicate any more of these out, so that's good. So now that I got some basic shapes going on here, I'm just going to try to let this thing actually take shape, because we kind of got to get something going as far as setting it up, or else we'll never be able to see what we need to do more to improve it, so on. So I'm going to kind of move some of this out of the way, and we are going to duplicate this out. Well, actually, we need the back of this, so we'll take that and stick it on back here, just like so, like it'll fit. Doesn't need to be perfect, of course, that's good enough. Get the roof and do the same thing. So there, this thing with the door will kind of be the basis for our little village house. I don't know, whatever it is. It's going to be something. It's going to be interesting. Let's Kind of get this set. I think what we'll want to do is I'll have the door kind of coming out right up about here. I might get rid of some of that grass there, I don't know. Kind of right about there. Let's slant it just a touch for a little personality. Okay, that's kind of nice. I may just take my handy dandy thing here and this stick and we'll go to work around this door, give it a little more personality. So we'll go through that a little quick. Something I'll do real quick here is I'll actually turn off studio lighting because it kind of helps to have good lighting when you are setting these up. You can kind of get a feel for that. So you want to see how light and shadow plays on the thing you're setting up. So we'll continue setting that up quick here. Okay, so I think I might try add a window up here too. I think that might work nice. We'll try that out. We might add one down here too as well. We'll see. We'll head through that real quick, try to set that up. Okay, as you can see, we've kind of got a window going on up here. It's, you know, kind of lopsided and all that, but that fits the Goblin aesthetic just perfectly, I think. And as you can see, we took our little useful eaves or whatever, that shingle sections, and you could use them for just about anything, as I did here. I felt like this needed this kind of going around it, like eaves or whatever. I don't know what you call it exactly, but we got that. It seems to work nice for what it is. And I'm actually just going to go through and take our handy-dandy stick here, and I'll shrink it down, and we'll kind of make a kind of window pane thing, because that seems about necessary. I'll just kind of set that up real quick. Okay, there we go. And I think by now, maybe you're probably starting to get the idea of the beauty of compound sculpting and stuff. So we're able to make pretty decent detail. Decent, I'd say. And have all this stuff, and it's not costing us a ton here. We're not, you know, we got a little gameplay go up. More clones will do that, but just by 1%. And we're going to be able to do quite a bit more. So I think we could stand maybe one more window right in here. That seems like a cool place for a window. It's kind of wonky and in the shadows. And later I'm going to put lighting in these windows, so that'll be neat too. We'll just speed through me kind of setting up the basics of this village/camp/house, whatever. Okay, well, as you can see, I've duplicated out a lot. I haven't added any new sculpts from what we created in the initial part of the video, and all this is basically just using what we made, cloned out, stuck together in various ways, and it looks pretty good. For all that, we only made like, what, 4 pieces? 5 separate pieces, I think? I can't remember, but not very much. And our thermal's doing pretty good for this kind of scenery we got going on here. 11 gameplay and 25 graphics. There's still a lot of room in this scene, technically speaking. We've got our full Goblin village slash camp slash house. This might be just one big mega house. I don't know. Maybe you have underground tunnels connecting these little things. That sounds kind of neat. But anyway, I'm gonna add in window light. But first, it may have struck your mind, as it has mine, that we're missing something important for this overall, which is we need snow cover on the whole thing, because it doesn't look very fitting for all this snow to be falling, and then this doesn't really have snow on any of it. So we need some of that, and there's a way I'm going to try to do that. It's a little bit different. What I'm going to try to do to put snow on all this is I'm going to try using the new sticker decal tool that's in the text gadget, which MM added a pretty recent update. That's maybe a good way to add snow, I thought. So what we're going to have to first do is I'm going to have to select all this stuff that I want snow to be on and group it. So I'm going to cut to that real quick. Okay, I think all that stuff is well grouped. Quite a tedious chore setting that up. But now we're going to get into our gadgets and snag out the text gadget displayer. Actually, let me pull back out of that real quick. I'm going to get into the group, and then I'm going to pull out our text displayer gadget. And I'm going to stamp it down. Now, you're going to have to bear with me on this, because this is something I don't have a lot of experience with yet. This gadget's fairly new, and we're going to see if we can get anything we like from it. It may not work out quite as well as I expect. So in the text displayer options, I'm going to go to this menu here, the properties here, and I'm going to turn this to white. It's going to be visible. We're going to turn texture mode on painterly, or no, actually, I'll go to standard. That seems good. Go to this border and turn the visibility off. No shadow. That doesn't even matter. And we'll just put one piece of text in here, even though it's just going to be completely whatever. Let's go text opacity, and we need to spread it out just a bit more, so we'll just put one more of those just to spread out the box. The text ain't gonna matter because we're not gonna see it. Let's go with in scene. Gotta make sure it's in scene, and we are going to select this sticker mode. Turn that on. You're gonna get this bounding box thing pop up. The other thing I'm gonna do is gonna make it allow rotation, so that I can grab it. Oh wait, wrong thing. Don't want to grab that. Grab it here and turn it around, rotate it, kind of like a sculpt or an object. And I'm going to have it like so vertical. And I'm actually going to increase the sticker depth quite a bit. Well, maybe not that much. We'll see. We'll need to scale it up now. So I'm going to go through some arrangement with this thing, and then we're going to see how it looks. I'm going to speed through this as I finick around with this. Okay, so I've arranged that nicely, and actually let's work it out. Overall, pretty cool. I just used one text display gadget to entirely coat this thing in snow, and it basically coats all the right surfaces. It looks nice, like there's a snowy coating on all of it, so that's pretty cool. Now, some problems we're kind of experiencing with it are that it's coating, as you can see, like the inside socket of the window, which I don't think is what we actually want, and some areas where you don't think that there actually would be snow, like under these eaves here and there. Some areas, it's kind of just something we can deal with it and accept it. It's not going to be perfect, but if we could figure out a way to maybe fix these windows, that might be great. Another area is the door here. Under this, it's kind of standing out like a sore thumb the way it's coated. That might not be so bad. I might be able to actually accept that, but we definitely got to do something about these windows. So one thing I might try doing is, the way this sticker decal thing works is everything in the group is affected by it. So if I go into the group, and if I were to take these windows, say, select them, just the windows. Now I selected all those windows inside the group and actually brought them back out of the group. So now they're no longer being affected by the snowfall decal, which, I don't know, it's difficult to say. Now you could say that's not perfect. It's like in this case, there's some areas where we think, like, to me it would look like we should have snow, like around the edge here, even though these windows for the most part are all under eaves, so that would protect them from the snow sort of. But I think what I'll do is I'll bring them back. There's another option we might try to fix the window problem in the socket. Okay, so I brought all of our windows back inside the group, and so they're now being affected by the snow again. I think overall that's more unifying for this thing, even though there's some areas it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the big problem spot I can see is right in here, this, where it's filling up the actual inside of the window. And I think there may be an alternate way to fix that. So what I'm going to do is maybe somewhat tedious, is I'm going to go into paint mode. I'm going to grab myself the old paint circle, I think, and I'm going to get my painting set to the same color as is inside the window. We're going to set it on surface snap, so that it snaps like so on the surface. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to manually paint this out. Since we're outside the group, that snowfall thing won't affect the painting, and we can just go just where we want it and fix it. So I'm going to get to work doing that real quick. We'll speed through a little bit of the first part, and then I'll probably just cut to the end, because it is going to be a tedious job in some ways. Okay, so I've gone through and done basically the best I can with that problem, and we've kind of cleared it up. It's in an acceptable state for me now, and I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get in and start trying to figure out, like, adding light. And what we're going to do is just get into paint mode. We'll probably get into stamp fleck and make sure this is not on surface snap, and make sure that we got a nice kind of warm yellowy color. A lot of warm orange like that. That's nice. Make sure it's a round circle. And then I'm just going to actually put one of these out and kind of set it in the window. Like so, just about so deep. Just kind of stamp that down a time or two. Probably about that deep. Like that. And I'm just going to get out of paint mode and duplicate that all around and put that in the windows. Just like it is here. Like so. So we will cut to the end of that. When I get to the end, I will be merging all these paintings together. So, wait for that. Okay, so I've got all those window paintings in position and all merged together into one single painting. So what we'll do is we'll just get in there now real quick, and we'll kind of turn up our brightness. As you can see, that's a nice kind of glow. We'll put it a little bit. Let's whiten it up just a touch. That seems about right. Well, maybe not too much. Anyway, that's a nice kind of a yellowy, homey glow for the goblins. Okay, all those windows are lighted and looking pretty nice. I actually also took the liberty of, as you can see here with these little branches, I took a few of these surrounding scenery branches that have been used previously in the scene and just cloned them and kind of stuck them in the group too and put them coming out, added even more personality, make it more woodsy, kind of coming out here and there from the crevices and crannies in these buildings. But that is a pretty nice little goblin town slash camp slash whatever it is. Now, of course, we've got a lot of possibilities as to little tiny extra details and extra propage we could add to that. Like, for instance, you could add some kind of ceramic chimneys smoking, you know, that probably would be expected or something. Of course, they got this fire pit out here. The fire pit itself, you could make like a little spit turning some kind of haunch of venison or something over it or something like that. You could make little like caveman chairs, very simplistic around, sit them around out here, or just get them from the Dreamiverse somewhere. Somebody's probably made something that would fit well in there, I don't know. But I am going to have to cut it at this point and call it a day. We have made a pretty good little camp slash home for these goblins. The basis for it is pretty solidified. You could go on all day figuring out little tiny extra things to add, or even you might be seeing it, you know, looking with your eyes at this and seeing ways in which, oh, Billy, you could do something else with the more twigs or trees or something, clone out some stuff. It's true. It's like this, just it goes on and on if you look at it. Unfortunately, we don't have the hardware nor the internet upload capability to YouTube to allow me to make massively long videos, so I'm trying real hard to keep these videos brief but fun and informative. So we're going to have to call it right here with what we've got, and I'm going to just leave you with the idea that, hey, this is going to be remixable. All this will be in here. And if you actually do see stuff that you think could be doing, you know my techniques. you have access to this. I would encourage you to freely go ahead and just remix it and play around with it and add whatever you could think of to this little deal. Fix it up however you might see fit, It should be a lot of fun. But I'm gonna have to leave it there for now. We will do our one last obligatory goblin walk through the forest, through our little goblin stop at twilight. I hope you enjoyed the video and will return for more. If you did enjoy, then be sure to check out our other videos and give a like and subscribe. It's super easy, completely free, and extremely helpful. If you'd like to send a little extra support our way, check the links in the description to our coffee or our account. This has been Billy Cultist. Bye-bye.